It is 2 a.m. You are lying in bed. And out of nowhere, a sentence you said 4 years ago plays back in your head, word for word. Not a happy memory. Not something useful. Just that one thing you said to that one person in that one moment you cannot undo. Maybe it was small. A joke that landed wrong. A comment that came out colder than you meant it. Maybe you weren't even sure anyone noticed. But your brain noticed. And apparently, it never stopped noticing. You didn't ask for this memory tonight. You were just lying there, half asleep, and it arrived anyway, fully detailed, complete with the tone of your own voice and the exact look on the other person's face. Why does your brain do this to you? Why that sentence and not the thousand better ones you said the same week? You've given entire speeches you don't remember a word of. You've had warm, easy conversations that vanished from memory within days. But this one 4-second exchange, the one you'd pay to forget, is filed away like it happened this morning. The easy answer is that you are just anxious or overthinking or too hard on yourself. But the real reason is older and stranger than that. It has almost nothing to do with the sentence itself and everything to do with what your brain thinks is at stake when you say the wrong thing in front of another person. Picture your ancestors. Not in an office, not on a phone, but on an open grassland, in a small group of maybe 30 to 50 people. That group is not just your social life. It is your food supply. It is your protection at night. It is the difference between eating and starving, between living and dying alone in the dark. There is no calling a different tribe. There is no starting over in a new city. There is no apologizing over text and quietly moving on. If that group decides you are unreliable, embarrassing, or untrustworthy, they can simply stop sharing food with you. Stop warning you when danger is near. Stop including you at all. And once that happens, there is nowhere else to go. No other group is waiting nearby with an opening. Outside the tribe is just open land, predators, and a body that cannot hunt, gather, or defend itself alone for long. Exile wasn't social discomfort. It was often a slow, quiet death sentence, and everyone in that group understood it without needing to be told. To a brain built in that world, being disliked was not an inconvenience. It was a survival threat, almost identical to being hunted, which raises an obvious question. If your standing in the group mattered that much, wouldn't your brain want to know, immediately and vividly, exactly which moments put that standing at risk? So evolution did something clever and slightly cruel. It built a system that treats social pain almost exactly like physical pain. The neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger found that when people experience social rejection, the same brain region that lights up during physical injury, the anterior cingulate cortex, becomes active too. Your brain, in other words, does not fully separate a broken bone from a broken reputation. Both mean danger. Both get flagged as urgent. Now think about what that means for a badly worded sentence. Your ancestor who said the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time needed to remember that mistake in vivid, uncomfortable detail. Not to suffer, to adapt. If insulting the wrong hunter meant losing your share of meat for a week, your brain had every reason to burn that moment into memory so deeply that you would never make it again. Notice how specific the memory usually is. Not the whole conversation, just the worst 4 seconds of it. That's not an accident either. Your brain isn't storing the event, it's storing the warning label. It keeps the exact tone, the exact face, the exact silence that followed, because those are the details that would help you spot the danger faster next time. A vague memory couldn't do that job. Only a sharp, uncomfortable, fully rendered one could. This is called negativity bias, and it is one of the oldest habits your brain has. Negativity bias simply means your brain treats bad experiences as more important to remember than good ones. Not because bad things matter more as facts, because bad things historically were more likely to get you killed, excluded, or starved. A good moment was nice. A bad moment could be fatal. So your memory system, quite reasonably, prioritized the second one. You can see this bias show up everywhere once you know to look for it. A single harsh comment can undo an hour of compliments. One mistake at work can erase months of good performance in your own head, even if no one else even noticed it. It isn't that your brain can't remember the good. It's that the good was rarely the thing that could have gotten you cast out, so it never earned the same permanent storage space. Here is the part almost nobody realizes. This isn't a flaw in your memory. It is your memory working exactly as designed. The psychologist Roy Baumeister described this pattern simply: bad is stronger than good. Across dozens of studies, negative events, negative feedback, and negative social moments were shown to have a larger and longer emotional impact than positive ones of equal size. One awkward sentence outweighs 10 smooth ones, not because you are broken, but because your brain is still running software written for a world where social mistakes could end you. So that 2 a.m. replay isn't random. It is your ancestral alarm system, still fully operational, still convinced that the tribe is watching, still treating an awkward comment at a dinner party like it might get you cast out into the wilderness alone. Except you're not on a grassland. You're in your bed on a Tuesday, and the person you said that thing to probably forgot about it by dinner. This is the mismatch. The system was built for tiny, permanent tribes where one bad impression could follow you for life, because there was no escaping it and no new audience to start fresh with. You are living in a world of thousands of loose temporary connections, most of which you will never see again, where most people are too busy replaying their own awkward moments to remember yours. Your brain has not caught up to that shift. It still files a slightly weird sentence at a party into the same category as a hunting group deciding to leave you behind. Think about how strange that actually is once you say it out loud. The stakes of a real ancestral mistake, a broken alliance, a lost share of food, a reputation that could follow you for the rest of your life are being applied to a comment you made at a work dinner that the other person has almost certainly already forgotten. Your brain isn't wrong to have this alarm system. It's just still calibrated for a world with much smaller margins for error and much higher costs for getting it wrong. There's a second layer to this, and it is called rumination. Rumination is the act of replaying a memory over and over, trying to extract a lesson from it. In small doses, this is actually useful. It is how your ancestors turned a single embarrassing mistake into a permanent behavioral update. Say the wrong thing once, feel the sting deeply enough, and you don't say it again. That is the system doing its job. The problem is that modern life gives this system almost unlimited fuel. You don't just make the mistake once. You can watch the message you sent, you can imagine the reaction, you can rehearse better versions of the conversation days or years later with no new information and no new outcome. Your ancestors replayed a memory a handful of times and then moved on because there was nothing else to review, no screen to reread, no message thread to scroll back through. The memory played, taught its lesson, and quieted down. You don't get that quiet. You can replay the moment in a loop with no endpoint, because the moment lives permanently in your memory and your imagination both, and your imagination is far crueler than the original event ever was. It adds an unimpressed expression that might not have even happened. It invents a version of the other person still thinking about it, still judging, when in reality they moved on somewhere around the time you did not. So what do you actually do with a brain like this? Not fight it. You cannot argue your way out of a system this old. Telling yourself to just stop thinking about it rarely works, because you are trying to reason with a system that was never built to respond to reason. It was built to respond to danger. But you can recognize it for what it is. When that sentence surfaces at 2 a.m., it is not new information about how bad you are. It is an outdated alarm going off in a world that no longer contains the threat it was built to detect. The wiring that flags social mistakes as dangerous once kept your ancestors fed and protected. It is simply misfiring now, treating a mildly awkward comment with the same urgency it once gave to tribal exile. There's a small trick in that reframe. The moment you notice the memory arriving, you can name it out loud, even just in your head. Not, "I'm an idiot for saying that," but there's the alarm again. That single shift from taking the memory as truth to recognizing it as a false alarm is often enough to loosen its grip, even if it doesn't make it disappear completely. Knowing this does not erase the memory. It will probably still show up, uninvited, at some inconvenient hour. But it changes what the memory means when it does. It stops being proof that you are careless, awkward, or unlikable, and starts being evidence that your social alarm system still works exactly as intended, just aimed at a target that no longer carries the weight it once did. You are not broken for remembering. You are running an ancient piece of software that once kept people alive by making sure they never forgot a social mistake. It did its job too well for a world that no longer punishes mistakes the way it used to. The sentence you wish you hadn't said will probably visit you again. That's fine. It's not a verdict on your character. It's an ancient smoke alarm going off because it smelled something once. in a world that burned down easily, and a body that never got the memo that the world changed. You don't have to put the fire out again. You already survived it the first time.